Right now, your brain is quietly speeding up your life. You haven't aged differently this year. The clock hasn't changed. Seconds are still seconds. And yet somehow this year felt shorter than the last. Last summer feels like a few weeks ago. Your childhood summers felt like decades. Same planet, same sun, same 365 days. Completely different experience of time. Not the time on the clock, the time inside your head. Because the truth is, your brain isn't measuring time. It's reconstructing it. And as you get older, it cuts corners. Here's the strange part. Time isn't actually moving faster. Your perception of it is shrinking, and the gap between those two things is where almost all the weirdness lives. Think about a single summer when you were 7 years old. You can probably picture the smell of a specific afternoon, the texture of a sidewalk, the exact sound of a screen door creaking shut. Now try to picture last August. For most of us, it's a blur. Maybe one trip, one weekend, a vague feeling of warm. Same number of days, wildly different memory weight. Your brain has done something sneaky between those two summers, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The first thing it did was something scientists sometimes call the proportional theory of time. When you're 5, 1 year is a full 20% of your entire life. When you're 50, 1 year is only 2%. So the same trip around the sun is, in a very real sense, a smaller slice of who you are. It's not just a feeling, it's basic math, quietly running in the background of every birthday. It's like zooming out on a map. The same road looks shorter the higher you fly. But that's only part of the story, and honestly, the less interesting part. The bigger reason hides inside your memory, and it's where things start to feel a little uncanny. Your brain doesn't store time directly, it stores events, moments stitched together by novelty, emotion, and surprise. When you were a kid, almost everything was new. New foods, new faces, new rules, new feelings. A new word for something you'd been wondering about for weeks. Your brain was basically taking detailed notes every single day, and the notebook was nowhere near full. And when you look back, more notes mean a longer feeling stretch of time. Neuroscientists sometimes call this the encoding density of memory. Fancy words for a very simple idea. Dense, vivid memories make a period of life feel long in the rearview mirror. Sparse, repetitive memories make it feel like it flew by, even if you were technically there for every second. Now picture a normal Tuesday in your adult life. You wake up at roughly the same time, in the same bed, drink something warm, look at the same little glowing rectangle, take the same route to the same place you went yesterday. Your brain looks at that day and goes, "Seen it, no notes needed." It compresses the whole day into a tiny mental zip file labeled Tuesday, and then quietly moves on. Do that 50 times in a row, and you've got an entire summer that fits in one sentence. That's not laziness. That's a beautifully efficient brain doing its job. It only spends precious memory storage on the unexpected, because the unexpected is where the useful information lives. Which is great for survival and absolutely brutal for feeling alive. Here's where it gets a little uncanny. A lot of researchers think this is partly why childhood feels so enormous in hindsight, even when, day to day, it was full of waiting and boredom and broccoli. It's not that kids have more time. It's that they have more first times, and first times are extremely expensive memories, in a good way. First time you saw the ocean. First time you stayed up past midnight. First time a song made you cry. For no reason, you understood. Each first is a tiny landmark your brain plants in the soil of your memory. And later, when you look back, those landmarks are what make the road feel long. Adulthood, by contrast, can quietly run out of landmarks. Not always, but often, and almost always without you noticing it's happening. You start to know how restaurants work, how airports work, how heartbreak works, how heartbreak. Your brain stops planting flags because nothing feels worth flagging. And a year of unflagged days collapses into something you can barely remember by the time the next year starts. This sounds bleak, but stick with me because the twist is genuinely hopeful, and your body is already wired to help. Pause for a second and try this. Try to remember one specific moment from the last 7 days that felt vivid. Not just good, but vivid. A conversation that surprised you. A taste you hadn't tasted before. A place you'd never been. If you found one, Your brain just flagged it, and that flag is the reason the moment still exists for you at all. If you can't find one, that's not a personal failure, that's a clue. It's your nervous system telling you the week didn't give it much new material to work with, and asking, very politely, for a little more. This is also a good moment to ask you something, because I'm genuinely curious. When you look back at the last year, what's the one moment that feels the most vivid? Not the most important, the most vivid. The one your memory refuses to compress, no matter how many ordinary days have stacked on top of it. Drop it in the comments. I read them. And honestly, reading other people's answers makes you remember things in your own life you'd half forgotten. Now back into your head, because there's a deeper layer here that almost nobody talks about. Time perception isn't only built from memory looking backward. It's also built moment to moment by something often called your internal clock. Your brain is constantly making tiny predictions. What will happen in the next second, the next minute, the next hour, sometimes the next blink. When reality matches the prediction, time feels smooth and fast, and you barely register it passing. When reality breaks the prediction, time stretches, and a few seconds can feel like a small chapter. This is why a boring meeting can feel like an hour and an actual hour of skiing can feel like 10 minutes, and also why those 10 minutes feel huge in memory later. In the moment, novelty stretches time. In memory, novelty stretches time again. It's the only thing in your brain that gets to double dip like that. And as adults, we accidentally engineer our lives to avoid exactly the thing that gives us more time. We love routines because they're efficient, predictable, and easy on a tired mind. Our brains love them because they're cheap, and cheap is what brains are constantly trying to be. But cheap days cost you years in the rearview mirror, and you only notice the bill when you turn around to look. Here's a tiny experiment your body is built to run. Tomorrow, take one familiar thing and do it slightly wrong on purpose. Take a different street home, eat with your other hand, sit on the opposite side of the couch. Ask a person you usually small talk with a real, weird question. Your prediction engine will hiccup, and that hiccup is exactly the point. For a few seconds, your brain will wake up and start taking notes again. And those notes are what next year's Remember When is made of. There's one more piece of this puzzle, and it's the part that surprises people most. Some scientists think the felt speed of time also tracks something physical, the slow shift in how quickly your brain processes images, sounds, and signals as you age. Younger brains, in general, sample the world a little faster, almost like a camera with a higher shutter speed. More mental frames per second if you want a rough analogy. More frames per second means each second feels packed with more information, and packed seconds feel longer while you're living them. This idea is still debated among researchers, so hold it loosely the way you'd hold any theory that's still being tested. But it lines up neatly with something almost everyone has noticed in their own life. A single afternoon at age 8, lying in the grass, could feel like a small lifetime. A single afternoon at age 38 can disappear between 2 cups of coffee and a single scroll. Same grass, same sun, different sampling rate, different prediction engine, different notebook. Which brings us back to your body, right now, reading this. You are not actually losing time. You are just spending more of it on autopilot, and your brain is being thrifty with the memory budget. The good news is the budget responds, and it responds faster than you'd think. Novelty, attention, surprise, awe, even a little mild discomfort. These are the currencies that buy back the feeling of a long, full life. Not more years, richer years. You can't slow the clock. But you can absolutely give your brain more reasons to take notes. So the next time a year sneaks past you and you catch yourself saying, "Wait, how is it already December?" you'll know what's actually happening underneath that sentence. It isn't time speeding up. It's your brain quietly compressing the parts of life that looked too familiar to bother remembering the way it was built to. And the fix isn't a new calendar, it's a new Tuesday. If this rewired your sense of time even a little, hit the like button so more curious people find it, and subscribe to Bodyquirk for more strange truths hiding inside your own body and mind. And in the comments, tell me, what's one small thing you're going to do differently this week, just to make your brain take notes again? I'll see you in the next one.